Without farmers, no food. With that slogan, farmers took their tractors to food distribution centers around the country, blocking refrigerated trucks from delivering food to thousands of supermarkets.
We think that people should experience what farmers are experiencing right now.
Jeroen Willems was forced to sell his farm last year because he couldn't earn enough money with his 50 cows and meet government limits on emissions.
I'm part of the fourth generation of farmers in our family, and that you have to give that up is very difficult.
It is estimated that around 5,000 farmers will have to sell their farms, especially those who live close to natural parks. They will have to cut nitrogen emissions coming from animal feces by up to 70% per farm. Research has shown that nitrogen emissions have severely damaged air quality and ecosystems in the Netherlands after decades of intensive farming. Now radical action is needed to meet European emission targets. After years of farmers' protests over government plans, the conflict has escalated in recent weeks. The effects of these farmers' protests are increasingly being felt by the Dutch public. After weeks of blocking highways and some confrontations with police, now they're targeting the very core of society, food. While a recent survey suggests that public support for these actions have gone up, the question is now, will this trend continue? The Association for Supermarkets have asked police to end the blockades as soon as possible. They say it's not only shops being affected, but that hospitals and other institutions could soon start running out of food.
They are right, and if they think they have to do this, just do it. Only problem is that our supermarkets may be empty, but then at least we know where the food is coming from.
I understand why they're protesting. Question is how much it disrupts society. If citizens start to suffer, there'll be a limit to what people will accept.
Farmers say they will continue the blockades until the government changes its emission plan.
We don't have much choice. I don't know if it will have any effect. I hope so. We don't want to disrupt everything, but as things are now, we have nothing to lose.
The threat to paralyze the country and block access to Schiphol Airport and Rotterdam Port did not materialize. But without any solution in sight, farmers are likely to continue to take to the streets with their tractors and wooden shoes. Step Vaassen in Nijkerk.
Somewhere else that seems to be sliding into dictatorship is Holland, which may not entirely be a coincidence. The similarities between Canada and Holland are as startling as they are disturbing. Here's Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte, leader of the laughably and ironically named People's Party for Freedom and Democracy. Apart from obviously sharing the same wacky lefty sense of humour, those two both are, of course, golden pin-up boys for Klaus Schwab and the globalist fantasists of the World Economic Forum. Only a few months ago, it was the Canadian government that attacked its own citizens in the most grotesque and terrifyingly authoritarian manner during the so-called truckers' convoy revolts, when the government actually froze the bank accounts and basically starved out any individuals involved in what was legitimate, peaceful, democratic opposition to COVID mandates. That ended badly for Trudeau, particularly after this shameful incident in which Canadian mounted police trampled over a peaceful woman protester.
Farmers in the Netherlands are blocking roads, setting fire to haystacks, and even driving tractors through the streets of The Hague. It's all in protest against laws that regulate emissions produced by livestock, but are likely to have a major impact on the farming community and the larger economy. The Netherlands has failed to meet its emissions reduction targets, so permits for new homes and roads have not been granted since 2019 to prevent further pollution. And the government's introducing tough new rules. Its $100 billion food export industry, one of the biggest in the world, could be badly affected. And this is happening when the war in Ukraine is already putting global food supplies at risk. Now, we're going to bring in our guests in a moment. First, this report from Step Vassen in Nijkerk in the Netherlands.
Farmers have said they want to paralyze the entire country. They have announced that they want to block access to the main airport, Schiphol, other airports, the port in Rotterdam. The situation has been escalating between farmers' organizations, the farmers themselves, and also the government on the other side in the last couple of weeks. There have been farmers detained at certain actions. Police was involved. There has been aggression also towards the minister. And now here we are at a food distribution center, one of the 25 that are being blocked today by farmers. And let's have a look around. We see the trucks here. They were ready to go to supermarkets full of food, meat, dairy products. You can hear the cooling machine still running, but they can't go anywhere because look at the other side. There are tractors, there are trucks, there are farmers sitting here. They say no farmers, no food. So they say we want to let the people in the Netherlands know that the farms can't be closed because they're very essential for food production around the country. The government has announced that the farms have to cut more than 50% of their nitrogen emissions, in some areas even up to 90%. There has been research showing that the effects of nitrogen pollution on the ecosystems in the Netherlands is pretty dramatic, and the farmers also say that these figures are not correct. They say that we want a better solution. The government has announced that they want a mediator to be involved, but the farmers have said this mediator is not acceptable to us. They're sitting here, they're waiting here for maybe up to 2 days. Some of them, we've spoken to them before, have already sold their farms because they were not capable financially to run their business. You can see here slogans, if there is no farmers, there won't be food in the supermarkets. That's what they say. Some have even brought some hay. They're sitting here on it. They brought their wooden shoes. It's really a protest. They say they had no choice. We are fed up, and if you push us to the limit, this is what we're going to do. But the question, of course, remains today how the Dutch public will respond to this when there's no food or there's empty shelves in supermarkets today.
So what's the plan that's caused so much anger? Well, Dutch farmers have been told to cut nitrogen emissions to between 12 to 70%, depending on how close they are to conservation areas. Those areas are part of what the European Union is calling Natura 2000. It's the largest coordinated network of protected areas in the world. Farmers whose land is inside natural reserves will have to cut by 90%. And those who can't do that will have one of three options: switch to crop farming, relocate, or quit the trade. Okay, let's bring in our guests. They're all joining us from the Netherlands. In Zeewolde, we have Jeroen van Manen. He's a dairy farmer and a protest organizer. In Amsterdam, Natasha Ollerman is a food and agriculture expert at the Worldwide Fund for Nature Netherlands. And in Gauteng, Theo Mandersloot is a mediator between producers and buyers at Agracom. He's also a member of Agracti, one of the largest farmers' action groups in the Netherlands. A very warm welcome to you all. Thank you very much indeed for being with us. Natasha, I want to start with you. This is about nitrogen and ammonia at its heart. Why are they thought to be so bad?
Well, ammonia and nitrogen specifically has a huge impact on biodiversity, especially in nature areas. And unfortunately, the Dutch agricultural sector is one of the major contributions to nitrogen emissions affecting biodiversity. In the Netherlands, we are facing a biodiversity crisis. And this is because of decades of government looking away. And finally, the government has made a decision to do something about it. And this is causing a major disruption because farmers weren't aware that they needed to change. But basically, this is not a surprise. It has been going on for decades. And now there's finally an opportunity to make this change and to have the budget to be to enable farmers to actually transition to a more sustainable, nature-friendly way of producing food.
Jerome, you're shaking your head there. Is this about nitrogen and pollution, or is there something else going on here?
No, well, we have a few different problems, but the main cause of this all is because some left-wing parties in the Dutch government want to have a reduction of the Dutch national herd, at least by 30%. Well, they wanted to have 50%, but that's the main cause of all. And when we look into the nature, the point like Natasja Oelemans was telling you about, reports, all of them say over the last few years, 85% of Dutch nature is in perfect condition. Of the 15% of the nature which is not in good condition, there are about 1,500 ways to improve the nature, and about 50% of these 1,500 ways is not even done yet in the Netherlands. And nitrogen pollution is only one of them. So that's what the Dutch farmers are saying. When some bit of nature, the 15%, needs to be improved, that's okay. But then we use all the different ways you can do to improve nature. And nitrogen pollution is only one of them. So in this case, and what we also say as agriculture sector, over the last 30 years, we already reduced almost 70% as agriculture sector. So on this point, none other sector did a reduction like agriculture did over the last 30 years.
Natasja, I know you want to come in, but I do want to bring in Theo Mandersloot here. The Dutch government, as Natasja was explaining, has brought together some sort of attempt at a solution, and yet it seems to be constantly rejected by the farmers. Why are none of these solutions acceptable?
The Dutch government is only working in one way. We as the farmers' organization in the Netherlands offered the Dutch government, I think, almost thousands of suggestions to do something, but to do something to reduce nitrogen and this kind of to help the nature. But it is not about the nitrogen, it's about rearranging the public space in the Netherlands. And this is the only reason why the government is not speaking with farmers, but over farmers, and not is taking the handshake what the farmers wants to give to the government, because the farmers give a lot of suggestions about lowering nitrogen, trying to make the nature better, to help the environment, to do something with the water qualities and everything more. And the Dutch government just is telling something about the juridical goals, and nothing about innovation and possibility solutions. So this is the reason why we are in this way are protesting, because the government is not listening in any way to the farmers. They're just taking their own way and going straight forward to reach their goals, instead of looking at nature, because the farmers need nature to produce on this highest level in the world. And what at the moment is happening is that the government just telling something about nitrogen and a lot of higher levels, but the topic if this were really a problem, then they would also suggest to speak about our airports, about freight, about the barges, about freight, about traffic, and this kind of thing. But none of them are involved in with some measures. Only the landscape and the farmers will be treated by our government. So this is not okay.
Nastasia, let me bring you in there, because both Jeroen and Theo are saying that that nitrogen and the impact of nitrogen and ammonia forms a small part of the situation, that in fact this is about a wider issue, that the government is actually wanting to change the land use within the country. What's your response? How do you react to that?
My response is as follows. There is no doubt that biodiversity is affected by nitrogen in the Netherlands. There are numerous reports that are indicating that. So something needs to change, and not from an ecological perspective, but also from a legal perspective. And that's why the highest court in the Netherlands ruled that nitrogen depositions in the Netherlands and emissions should reduce by 50% in 2030. So, but apart from that, I agree with the other speakers that there is more happening in the Netherlands, because we also have a water quality. We have an air quality problem. The water quality in the Netherlands is far below what is needed to comply with the Water Framework Directive in Europe. So our drinking water, our groundwater is at the moment so polluted, and agriculture is also one of the polluters of that. So apart from nitrogen affecting biodiversity, we are also talking about air pollution and water pollution. And this is also the reason, I think, why we need to have a transition of agriculture that is ticking all those boxes of things that need to change. And this major transformation of agriculture, even though it will affect farmers, it can also be seen as an opportunity to really transition a broken food system into a system that is good for nature, but also provides a future for farmers, a new future, because the system that we are in right now is a system that is broken and is not working for farmers. Every day, 5 farmers in the Netherlands stop their business because there's no future. So the current system is not working for farmers, it's not working for biodiversity, it's not working for our health, because the air quality in the Netherlands is really below level that is healthy. So I do agree with them that not only agriculture needs to change, but that we also have to look at traffic, at industries, and so on. But the fact is, and that's the thing with the nitrogen case, is that agriculture at the moment, and especially dairy farming, is contributing the most, with 60% of the national emissions is being caused by mainly the dairy sector. So that's the start of the change, but I totally agree that we have to look much broader, and that we have to look at a situation in which the current system in the Netherlands, both for food producing and the way we use our land, needs to be rearranged. And that means, especially for farmers, that a transition is needed, but that's why the government also put 35 billion euros in the budget over the next decades to help with that transition and to support that transition. And I would really, really value if farmers would come up with an offer in how they can contribute and what the price and the costs are that society also has to pay, because I do think that this problem is not being caused by farmers, because they are also a victim of the current system, but that the farmers are the solution, and that they can help in bringing the Netherlands to a future where it's green, not only for nature, but also for us people.
Nastasia, I'm going to stop you there because I want to bring in Jeroen. Forgive me for interrupting you, but I want to bring in Jeroen because he clearly has got very strong feelings about this. Jeroen, explain something to me, because from what I've heard so far, the government seems to have an end goal of improving the environment within the Netherlands. So do the farmers. From what Theo was saying, it's intrinsic to the farmers, it's important to the farmers that nature should be sustained, that their livelihood should be sustained. Where is this breaking down? Where is the problem with this, that when you're both working towards the same end goal, if you like, you can't find some sort of common ground to be able to move forward?
But I wanted to respond on what Ms. Natasha said just right now. It's not true. It's very hypocrite also. Whatever problem you look at, if it's nitrogen pollution, if it's methane, if it's CO2 or whatever, the use of antibiotics, Dutch agriculture is champion of the world. Right now, when we focus on nitrogen pollution, we can, the law, which is now a plan from our minister, It will cause that probably about 40% of the Dutch farmers have to stop their business, and production will have to get away outside of Holland. You know, every country in the world is on a lower standard for nitrogen pollution, for CO2, for whatever problem. So when we get rid of Dutch farmers, other farmers in the world need to take care of the same production. We need more land use. There's more use of water. All the problems Natasha is saying, you know, you can say something about Dutch water quality, and it always can be improved. We have innovations for that. But when you put food production to other countries in the world, standards will lower. So then in 10 years' time, the Dutch citizens are eating food which is produced on a lower standard than it's produced right now. You know, when we want to solve a problem, we have not only Holland in the world, but we need to see climate and nitrogen as a worldwide problem. And then we can improve the world by getting to Dutch standards, not only to get rid of farmers in Holland, because it's only moving the problem away out of sight, and nothing is solved. So it's ridiculous and also hypocrite.
Theo, let me ask you this, because from what if I understand Natasha correctly, the government has put money in place in order to be able to help farmers transition from livestock, this is predominantly livestock farming that we're talking about, to move from livestock farming into crop farming. It's providing money for farmers who feel that they're not able to meet the standards, so the farms will be bought out. It seems to me as though the government is at least putting some money towards this. Let me ask you this. What is preventing livestock farmers from making the transition from animal to crop farming?
The biggest issue is that the government has unreachable goals in their for themselves. They only speaking over farmers, not with farmers. They not interested in any innovation or in any solution. What they reached also from the agricultural sector, we are working as agricultural sector already for decades on innovation and on solutions to reduce our emissions. And what's happening now is that our government in the past pointed 162 areas of wish nature. This nature, they want to have some habitats in it, which they want to have to come, or they want to have to protect some little insects or something. So that's really nice, and we like this also as farmers. But the biggest issue is that if they using the nitrogen goals, if we just empty the whole Netherlands, all farmers, all citizens, we still have a huge problem, because we have the nitrogen and the worst water quality, which is coming from the eastern part of Europe and what's flooding into the Netherlands. So we can do what we want, and we can try to do the best what we have, but it is not reachable. It's not possible. Furthermore, it sounds really nice, 35 million euros for the €1 million for the agricultural sector in the Netherlands, for the farmers, but this is not the truth. First of all, they don't have the money for it, and second is that they have to try to improve something and try to help the farmers with some changes. But if you look at what was happening a few weeks ago in our one week ago in our government, we had a Dutch farmer which getting money from the government for his nature goals, and the Dutch government was telling him, okay, it was really nice that you changed your farm to nature living, but this year we will end your payments for all your efforts. And so this guy was totally lost, and he doesn't know what to do, because his company's farm, he has to quit with his farm because the government is quitting to pay the money. And the biggest issue is that our government is telling that they want to pay for everything, and they want to do a lot of things, and they want to change, and they want to have change, but the farmers want also to change. but our government is not trustable. And this is the biggest issue.
Natasha, do you think that given the food crisis that the world is facing at the moment because of this, the war in Ukraine and the restrictions on grain and so forth, do you think that whilst zero emissions may well be a great objective for governments around the world, this is not the right time for any government to be trying to bring in this kind of thing?
It is the right time to make a change, and I'm honestly a bit surprised by the arguments that the two others, Theo Manders and Jeroen van Manen, are telling us, because I obviously feel that they are still in the illusion that the Netherlands is feeding the world. The Netherlands is not feeding the world, because a lot of grains, also from the Ukrainian past, but also from Brazil, soy is coming to the Netherlands to feed animals. These are feedstock that can easily be used directly by humans to eat. So producing meat and dairy in the Netherlands in a very intensive way, which has been causing a lot of damage to nature, a lot of damage to water quality and to our air quality and our health, is not the solution for feeding the world. The Netherlands is being proud that we have the best producers, but the best producers in the Netherlands, it maybe refers to the amount of production that we are doing per hectare or per animal, but it has caused enormous societal and environmental problems. So if you take that into account and the societal cost that it's taking, apart from all the subsidies that farmers need in order to make a living in the Netherlands, most farmers are dependent for half their income on European subsidies to survive. So the Dutch system is broken, and this is not only me as a nature conservationist saying this is what our government is saying, this is what many scientists are saying.